I'm starting a new channel to talk about how the composer, well, me specifically for now, can use Suno and other AI tools like it, but we'll be concentrating on Suno to start here. How these tools can be used in a collaboration-based environment. Tools to help the composer speed their workflow, get ideas, not press a button and have Suno create some music based on its training coming out of the blue. Not at all interested in that. What we'll be talking about is how can Suno and other AI tools be a real help to the composer? How can we work with these tools and get to know them, and in the future use them as something that doesn't replace us but helps make our work easier and more efficient? For a while, we're only going to be worrying about instrumental music and how we can use that with Suno to do some interesting things. Everything we're doing is always going to be inputting our own music of some sort into Suno. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a lot of music, but the more music of your own that you input into Suno, the better the odds Suno's going to give you back something that's more related to your music than just going in and using its training and creating, frankly, garbage, which it can do. If you don't know about Suno, this video will just give you a little taste of how you can use it to input some piano music and get back some sample orchestrations and arrangements, some of which are quite amazing. So what we'll do is I have a march that I wrote a while ago. I've reduced it down to 2 piano staves, and I'll play that for you, and then we'll go through importing it into Suno, creating an output for an orchestration of this that Suno does automatically that can give you great ideas on how you might orchestrate it yourself. So that's the one use case we're covering in this video, and it also will kind of give you a great idea of how powerful and unique and amazing this tool can be. Let's go into Suno now, and for what we're doing, you're going to need the paid version of this, either the Pro or the Premier version. I have the Premier version here. It gives you more credits. Trust me, once you start using this thing, you're going to be creating things constantly, and every time you create something, you use your credits, and you can run out of them for the month if you do too much processing. And with the Premier plan, that gives you 10,000 credits, and that's more than enough, at least for my case, to last a month, though I'm getting close on the edge there. So let's go in. We'll go to Suno Studio. I'm using the latest version 5. I find that it gives you better audio output for instrumental music than the earlier versions. Some people prefer some of the earlier versions for their song outputs. If you want to do instrumental stuff, I suggest you start with version 5. And what we'll do is we'll go to audio here and we'll upload a sound file. So I'll go in, I'll find where I have my file. We'll pick this one. It'll ask you, do you want to save it? So I'll do that. It will start uploading the file. Now, this might tell you it can't upload it because it thinks it's copyrighted material, and Suno will check if you're trying to upload something that has already been produced commercially. If it does that on you and you're sure it's your own music, just try uploading it again. So here it uploaded it. I have it in. I can play it. What I want to do with that, it even tells you what it thinks it is, and sometimes it doesn't get it right. Here it says, this is an upbeat, whimsical ragtime piano composition featuring a fast-paced, syncopated melody. The track is characterized by a stride piano technique where the left hand maintains a la-da-da-da-da-da. So it does try and tag your music with some kind of a style that it thinks it's in, and it uses that if you don't give it any further prompting to try and recreate the style it thinks it's in. What we'll do here is we'll go in and we'll say remix and cover it, and that will create a version of this thing. You'll see the audio here that you can then play, and from there you're going to want to set up your prompts so that it can create an instrumental version of this in some style that you want to specify. I start with very simple prompting. I'll leave the lyrics set as instrumental because I don't want to input lyrics. I want this to come out as an instrumental piece. Style, for this, all I have to say is just march and maybe orchestral. And you can put some other prompting tags in there as well if you like. We really won't get into details of prompting in this video. This is just to give you a taste of what Suno can do as an arranger. And then I'll go to the advanced options, and this is important because I want the audio influence to be set at 100%. In other words, I want Suno to use as much of my music that I input as possible. Don't go off track. Don't try starting to invent stuff on your own, though sometimes it will, no matter what you do here. Style influence, to start, I normally just set that in the middle. I'll set the weirdness value to 0. Weirdness will start imposing some extra influences on your music in some unpredictable ways. If I make the style greater, it will try and see what styles I put in there and give more of it. If I do less, it may try and do less, but I found that sometimes you can set it less and it goes to town and adds stuff on you don't really want, and sometimes you can set it greater and it gives you more of your music. Bottom line is you just have to experiment with these 3 settings. Set them one way and it will give you something that's kind of close to what you put in. Set it another way and it might start adding all kinds of stuff on its own on you, some of which you might find interesting and maybe use that as inspiration, which is a great way to use the tool. It can give you ideas. So I'll do that, and then I just simply hit create. And once I hit create, it starts creating 2 versions for me that I can play. They'll be a little different. If I hit create again, it'll give me 2 more versions. And you can keep on creating versions. The only thing I found is if you create more and more versions, Suno has a tendency to start adding more and more of its own filigree, its own scale passages, all kinds of runs. Frankly, a lot of garbage can be added in on you. So most times, the first 1 or 2 creations you create are probably going to be closer to what you input than just hitting create, 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 create. So that's the basics. So once you create it, you can play it, you can right-click on it and store it as an MP3, or if you have the paid version, store it as a high-quality wave audio. You can also create videos, but we won't get into that here. We're only interested in putting our music in, setting a simple style, let it arrange it in that style with the instrumentation that we suggest, and see what comes out. Here is what Suno actually created. Wow, how cool is that? The ability to take a piano piece of yours, throw it into Suno, give Suno a style, a basic orchestration, and Suno's going to come up with something that sounds pretty amazing. Now, if you look at it really closely, it's not quite orchestrating exactly. It's throwing in bits and pieces of orchestral components here and there, but it comes out sounding like an orchestration or an arrangement. And if you listen closely, you might hear Suno put in some artifacts. There's some sonic irregularities that can result in the output. It can give you some instruments you're not asking for. There's a lot of randomness that still can be imposed on you without you really asking for it. Perhaps over time, we'll be able to specify things in Suno a lot more exactly, but you can always export the stems from Suno and bring it into a DAW and work with it there. You can also export MIDI, though the MIDI files we'll see in some other videos is kind of erratic in how it's created. Not that useful. You'll have to do a lot of editing on it. But one of the really cool things that Suno does is it imposes style, not only in terms of the kind of style like a march or an Irish dance, whatever you ask for, but it will automatically humanize the output. Much better humanization, much better musical flow than you'll get with a similar function in a DAW. And Suno will add dynamics, Suno will add phrasing, Suno will add change on you to give you a nice feel of real human players. Of course, it's not like real humans playing, but it's training on real humans. And in that sense, you're going to get some output from Suno that's going to be much more humanistic than something you'll create with a DAW. Yeah, you'll have to live with some of Suno's irregularities, but as a tool to give you ideas on how to orchestrate or arrange in certain styles, this is an amazing, amazing program.